You're listening or watching Real Conversations with Jacob Young. Real Conversations is sponsored by Boys Town, saving children, healing families for over 100 years. What they do is literally changing boys and girls' lives every single day. Please go to boystown.org for more information on how to learn how you can help make a difference in a young person's life. RCJY is also sponsored by Lane Frost brand, made for the champion in you. They got the best hats, every style, many different designs to choose from, shirts, hoodies, and more. There's something there for the entire family. So go to lanefrost.com. And hey, be sure to use Jacob15 to save on anything and everything Lane Frost brand. Now, thanks for tuning into this very special episode of Real Conversations. My guest this week had the role of a lifetime, playing Robert De Niro's son in the classic film A Bronx Tale. He followed that with memorable movies like Penny Marshall's Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito and Crimson Tide. On television, he played opposite the great James Gandolfini in The Sopranos. The world was his oyster when addiction led him down a path that resulted in a prison sentence. However, he has proven that a healthy recovery is possible for anyone who's ready to accept help. He's turned his life around, and he's back to his acting career. He's changing lives, and he's 15 years sober. My guest this week is Lillo Brancato. You know what time it is. It's time to keep it real with Real Conversations with Jacob Young. Lillo, welcome.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for joining me today. I was looking forward to talking to you. It's a special day for me, but I know it's a special day for you because we're recording this today on your birthday. So happy birthday, my brother.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Let's just start at the beginning, man, with young Lillo. How did you first get the bug for acting?
Well, I never really had the bug. I didn't even know that I had that in me. I was discovered on the beach at 15 years old in 1992. Bronx Tale was an open call audition. And I had heard about the film, but I just thought it was such a long shot, being that so many people were talking about it. And that was just where I lived. And, I live in Yonkers, then you have the 5 boroughs. So I thought it would be such a long shot. And I never really put much thought into it until the day on the beach in Long Island when I was discovered. My brother came and got me out of the water. There was a talent scout there. And my brother told him that I bore a resemblance to Robert De Niro. So the guy wanted to meet me. He saw me. He was like, wow, he does look like him. He invited me down to the Bronx that night. And then I found out that I was able to act a little bit. So he really enjoyed my audition, put me on tape. This was back in the VHS days. So you had the big VHS tape back in 92. So he put me on tape, and he said that he was going to send the tape to New York City to Robert De Niro's production office, and then to give him a call in a few days, and we'll see where we are. No problem. To me, I was just happy to be there. I was just happy to have had a chance just to say, hey, that De Niro movie? Yeah, I read for it, Yeah. So I was just happy to do that. And that was a Sunday, July 5th. I was working at a law office at the time. It was my summer job. I was just filing and stuff for my mentor. His name is Corey Rabin, who's also in recovery since. He's a real estate attorney that did closings for my dad, who was a builder. So this is how we knew Corey. And then he was in recovery and then discovered that I had a problem and, thought it was his obligation to get involved. So I worked for him and at his law office. And that's when I was discovered. So I went to work on July 6th, 1992. I came home and remember the guy said, call me in a few days. They called me that day, that Monday night. I came back. I was home from work. I remember I was eating something. And they called up, and this was before cell phone, so it was the house phone. Yeah. And there was someone from Tribeca. And just the way the woman sounded, like very professional, I thought it was someone that wanted, because my dad's name was Lillo as well. So when I heard Lillo, I thought that it was someone looking for my dad, because like I said, he was a mason. So I thought it was somebody maybe wanted an estimate, like on a sidewalk or to repair the back, because my dad, a lot of people would call for that. Sure. So I was like, yeah, you want my dad? He's not home right now. And she said, are you Lillo? And I said, yes, I am. She goes, no, I think I'm looking for you. I am so-and-so. We really loved your tape. And now I was like, wow, this is real. They invited me down to Tribeca By the way, that means triangle below canal. Tribeca is the little triangle below Canal Street.
Yeah, good for the people that don't know anything about New York City.
So I went down there, and it was so intimidating because there were so many actors down there reading for this role. And, professional actors. They were like in the corner reading their lines, and I was very, very intimidated. But I went, did what I did. They invited me back, and I kept going, and they kept calling me back until the point it was just me. And then eventually I meet De Niro. And after working with him for about a couple of weeks, he said, I want you to dress like you're going to church. And, we're going to do a screen test, and we're going to put you on film. Because I didn't know that film, because people look different on film than they, like some people may. So he wanted to see the way I looked on film. And then I didn't know the kid who shot Sonny at the end of the film, he was up for my role. His name is Phil Garbarino. And his mom just passed away. Rest in peace to her. And I saw him at the wake. Basically what I'm saying is, even though I got that role for him, he's still a very close friend of mine. And he was never had any malintent or anything. He just took it, and we've been friends. And I saw his dad. I remember we went to Seaside Heights. And so he comes up to me at the screen test, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Phil Garbarino, and I'm reading for Calogero." And I didn't know that. So now I was like, "Wow, now this is a problem." Even though I may look more like De Niro, he got to this point for a reason. Sure. So he's there for a reason. He may have something that I don't. He's older than me, and maybe it's less work for them to have somebody older, more. So now all this stuff is going through my mind, and I am losing a little focus. But I went in. Everyone else went in first, and it was him and I at the end. Mm-hmm. And then we would go shot for shot. That was a Thursday. I remember I didn't get a call till Sunday saying that Bob wanted to see me, De Niro. I went down, and I got the role.
Yeah.
I got the role. And that was it. My whole life changed from that point on. And then, we went on and did the movie in the fall. Everything felt like, De Niro took really good care of me while.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you. I've worked in television and film for years and years. And was there any moment where he's taking you under his wing? He's like, look, he knows that you're green. You said you didn't have the acting bug at that time. Was he helping facilitate that moment to moment experience, or was he just kind of letting you hang all out?
He was kind of letting me do what I had to do and not really micromanaging until he had to, but he didn't really have to. I think that we spent long enough. It was a long enough process just getting me to this point that I think that all of that, what you mentioned, wouldn't be necessary. Because it's like we went, we did all that. I know this guy is the guy for the role. Because believe me, they had me try every combination with 50 different girls. There was. So by this point, he was sure. This guy, I know. I have confidence in this guy that he is Calogero and can be him. But I'll tell you what, the scene when I asked the girl, do you know how to make sauce? We did that 30 times because there was something in it that he just wanted that to be. And I remember him telling me to put an emphasis on the you and the sauce. Do you know how to make sauce? Like that, and it was just that was one thing that he did micromanage. But for the most part, it was a wonderful experience. Him, Chaz, they really looked out for me, took care of me, nurtured me the right way as an actor. And, it's something that I will never forget. And now can look back and think about how blessed I was to have been a part of something that's so special. And it's going to be 30 years old next year at the Bronx Tale.
Isn't that something? Like that just flies by.
Absolutely.
No, you had, they had that wonderful experience and a role of a lifetime and well-deserved, man. You're an incredible actor, very, very talented. I've always thought so. But I want to back up a little bit too. Problems really began for you when the drugs became part of your life. Do you think that addiction started as a combo of having money, too much time on your hands, inner demons? Or do you think maybe it was a genetic factor that played a role?
No, I think nature versus nurture. I think everything contributed. It's like the perfect storm. Like Hurricane Sandy was the perfect storm because this, and that's that. I think maybe I was past this addictive gene on genetically, number one. Okay. You get people that are passed on that gene, but maybe put in a situation in life where it doesn't come out. You know what I mean? But like you know what I mean? Or if you put them in the right situation to, you know, where it will be brought out, it will be. But I think having that addictive gene, then being invited into Hollywood by doing this film, and then having this access to this kind of stuff, and then growing up so fast at that age without any experience, you know what I mean? And now because of this, I didn't really go to school anymore because I didn't really think it was necessary because I was doing so well, and I didn't need to go to school for financial reasons because I was doing well. So it was kind of a combination of everything. And, you know, I don't blame my parents because my parents were great. And, you know, they taught me and did the best they could with what they knew. But my parents were both immigrants. They're both from Italy. And, you know, they don't have experience with drug addiction and stuff like that. I mean, if you smoke a joint, oh, my God, you know, just because of the way it's been stigmatized. Right. And these, like, you know, old school Italians, they'll make, you know, red wine. But then, you know, marijuana to them is very serious. So even that. But my parents didn't have any experience. So
immigrants coming into America, of course, you know, they wanted to be American, so they wanted to follow American laws. They wanted to drive the Cadillac. You wanted to have, you know, speak English, right?
No, they're definitely law-abiding citizens. You know, Italian Americans definitely law-abiding citizens because, you know, they look at coming to this country as a privilege and an honor, and you know, some people don't. But I know, you know, I grew up with Italians and the culture, and they are very proud. You know, they're very proud people, and they do look at being in this country as a privilege. And, you know, with that privilege, they made and did the most that they can. And they worked really hard to give their families, you know, a lot more than they had when they were, you know, coming up like that. And, you know, you got to respect that.
Absolutely.
But one thing they didn't have was the experience to be able to steer me the right way, away from addiction. But that's not their fault. You know what I mean? And I just think that, like I said, it was the perfect storm.
You worked... Speaking of Italian Americans, you worked with James Gandolfini.
Correct.
Before The Sopranos. One of the scariest characters in TV history, but was a real gentle giant in real life. What help or advice did he try to give you when you were working together on The Sopranos?
Well, he basically told me that, you know, not everyone gets the opportunity that we get. Like, you see what we're doing, like, you know, movies and television, and you're on a show like this, like The Sopranos. This is like the top. Because there was nothing bigger than that show at that time. There was nothing bigger, you know? And to, like, I mean, the amount of attention that I would get on a Monday after being in the episode on a Sunday, my God. The whole world was watching that show.
They were, yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, it's like the whole world was watching that show. So basically Gandolfini was saying, like, you're on this, like, hottest show on the planet. And, you know, you got to make better decisions because not everybody gets the opportunity to do what we're doing. And, you know, of course, when you're young and not, you know, don't have that clarity because of the addiction, you're going to shrug that right off and, you know, you're not even going to hear it. And then you're going to continue to, you know, spiral downward. And that's what happens. It doesn't get better. It's not like a little kid's clothing that they just outgrow and like, okay, now I get the next size. No, that you don't outgrow that. If you don't treat that and you don't work on getting that better, and finding out why you do those things, it's only going to get worse because the goal of addiction is to kill you. That's its main goal, is to ruin your life and kill you. So if you don't do anything about you, it's going to do just that. It's just a matter of time. And you do, and it's not like you are the only one that goes through it because everyone else around you watches you become more and more with each day, more powerless to whatever is going on inside you, and something that on the outside looking in, we look at you and say, like, can't you stop? But they don't realize. Yeah. We wish it was just like, yeah, I can stop. But it's not like that. It's just, you know, it's like a phenomenon. Like what happens to us? Like, you know, and I've said this before, it's like we slip out of ourselves into something else. During that time, it's like we become possessed because as much as we want to tell ourselves that we're not going to do it again, there were many nights where I was crying, please just let me go to sleep. And, you know, like, I'll never do this again. But then it's like a few days later when you've had a little time to rest and that little period of convalescence, and now it's like you forgot about everything that you went through. Yeah. You know, as this was kept happening as I was getting older, it was very scary because it was something that you can control, but you can't control.
Yeah, I know it all too well. I was addicted to pain pills for 7 years straight. I hid it from everybody. It got worse and worse. And it was just that, trying to score, trying any which way to pick up the pills to stay not sick. And it became everything to me, everything. And I was losing everything. I was father already. And it was just like, I was looking at my kids every day saying, I want to stop this. And it took me breaking into a narcotics rash and literally having to come clean, crying like a baby to my wife that I needed help.
Yeah.
And hiding that.
Yeah. And that stuff never goes away. I think that, although I do think it can manifest, I don't believe the whole drug addiction is a disease. I don't think that's true. I don't think that can be true. I just think that it's a personality trait that happened to manifest in drugs and alcohol. It can manifest in gambling. It can manifest in shopping. It can manifest in sex. It can manifest in working out. It can manifest in many different places. And now that for me, it is manifested into working out, because I work out 7 days a week. I've even lost business opportunities because I did not want to take off working out. So it's but you know what?
That's your healing process right there. That's your day-to-day healing.
Right, but I get that endorphin high, and and I recently saw somebody smoke crack, and that was the first time I saw that in front of me since 2005, and it was a surprise. I didn't even know what the hell was going on, and I wasn't even in a place where I would think this would happen.
Right.
This person had their back to me, and then I hear this noise, and I'm like, "What is that?" And then I realized what it was. Mm. And
how did that make you feel?
It didn't make me feel anything. That's why and the same thing happened when I cleaned out my dad's medication after he died. My mom said, "Listen, we're going to start throwing out some of Papa." That's what we call them, Papa stuff. If you can start putting stuff in bags, and then we're going to throw it out. I said, "Sure." And I was on parole, but I didn't have to see them for a while. My dad died in June of 2018. So this was October, and in December I was going to max out. So my father had OxyContin. They were right there, and I didn't have to see parole for a while. So I could have easily done them and been clean in time if I, got a urinalysis or whatever. And then, with the crack, nothing happened. Nothing.
Yeah.
And to me, that tells me it's not a disease. Because
it's behind you.
Drug addiction is not a disease. Maybe the addictive personality can be considered some kind of illness because we become powerless to wherever this manifests because of that personality trait. But I do not think that drug addiction is a disease. The prefrontal cortex part of the brain, you're wired a certain way. But it's I think over time, when you do say no and you get to the other side and you see how much more beautiful that is, you know what I mean? Rather than in the instant gratification, but then the price that you pay for that over the next few days. But I think even if you're forced to not get high for whatever court mandate or whatever it is, but whatever it is that gets you to the other side without using, that's a very valuable lesson. It teaches you, maybe not the first time. It's not going to rewire your brain that first time. But I think as you keep doing, I know it has for me, that it's like positive reinforcement. My own positive reinforcement has been built in the prefrontal cortex, where before I didn't think rationally. When I was around this stuff, it's just boom, impulse. Yeah. Now that doesn't happen anymore. So you can't tell me, I see people go to meetings 30 years later, I still struggle. How? You're struggling because you believe that this is a disease. So subconsciously you're leaning on that. And then you subconsciously slip right into the victim role, whether you realize it or not. That's what happens. To good people, I see it all the time. And they I'm still so there's no way after 30 years and your life has gotten this much better that you're struggling. And if it's struggling, it has nothing to do with the drugs. Maybe they're telling you that. But there's no way. You can't, you are what you think. And if you think you're a diseased addict, you're going to be that forever. You're going to be that forever. I don't even have the urge to use drugs, nothing. You know, like in the beginning, if I would have saw that, you know what I mean? Say if I would have saw the crack, even if I was like 2 months, I didn't smoke, but I'm still far from out of the woods, right? In 2 months, that's when my mind and myself, I would have started making deals. Dr. Jekyll would have started making deals with Mr. Hyde. Well, like, yo, bro, you don't got another meeting until Monday. It's Thursday. Aren't you off tomorrow? When was the last time you did this, bro? You're not like you got that much money. Go enjoy yourself tonight. And this is what you start thinking.
Yeah, you rationalize.
Right, but this doesn't happen anymore. That didn't happen these few times.
Yeah.
Because I've said no so many times. And I've built a life for me now that is so much more beautiful. I have such a solid foundation now that, you know, I got years under my belt.
Yeah, I know you do. And I want to talk about that.
You know, so
I do want to talk a little bit about, you know, your world was forever changed one horrific night.
yes.
And you were on a drug run. You got shot. The person you were with was also shot, retaliated. He killed an off-duty police officer. So that everyone is clear that's listening, you were not carrying the gun. And in court, it was proven that you were not aware that the person that you were with was in possession of a firearm. But you had been shot and you were fleeing the scene when the other person you were with fatally shot the off-duty policeman. You still went to prison. You still served your time for what happened that night.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, that was a horrific night to say the least. Yeah, my life was changed, but also another family's lives, a whole family's lives were changed because of that night. You know, that person, as we know, was an off-duty New York City police officer, came out to investigate, heard some noise, thought there was a burglary in progress, which there wasn't. Yeah, a broken window, but that doesn't mean burglary. A broken window doesn't mean that you knowingly entering unlawfully, part one, with the intent to commit a crime therein. So the purpose of the unlawful entry is to commit a crime. So it's a two-part crime. A broken window is mere destruction of private property, but they made the leap from that to that. When, you know, there's witnesses heard me screaming the guy's name, Kenny, outside. This is after I got shot. And, you know, like that right there, if you really think about it, and, you know, if you really think about it, just the fact that I yelled Kenny's name after I got shot, okay? These, you know, like when a detective sits you down and has his pen and pad or his tape recorder and starts asking you questions, you're being interviewed. He's asking, you know, he's interrogating. It's an interrogation. But when you're not asked and you're just on the scene of the crime and something is said spontaneously, that's what's called a spontaneous utterance. And they hold much more weight in court. So there was, after I was shot, there was an independent witness, him and his wife. The last name was Montalvo. And the names were redacted until trial. So these two witnesses, they even needed a translator. They didn't speak English, they were Spanish. They testified to the fact that they heard a male voice yelling in desperation, Kenny! Kenny! You know, and I don't know how people don't understand that people are just so narrow-minded. Like a lot of members of law enforcement, and they automatically cop killer, cop. But you got to be fair about this. This stuff's still, like, you know how many gigs and things I do get canceled, you know, because of this, and cops and all this. Like, right. Enough is enough. Like, I've paid my debt to society.
You did.
You can talk to parole officers, parole supervisors. They'll say that guy was a productive member. He never once gave us a problem. I even got left prison 6 months early because I got a degree in business out of my own pocket. It wasn't I went and took the initiative to get the education from a school outside. Not you're there and they offer it, so you take it. No, I took the initiative.
Let me ask you this, and how does the reality of prison, like Rikers Island, compare to how they are portrayed in movies and TV?
Well, Rikers Island, you know, Rikers Island is not prison, it's jail. It's city jail.
That's city jail.
Yeah. Rikers Island, I mean, I think Rikers Island, like times that I have depicted, I've seen it depicted on TV, it wasn't accurate. I think sometimes they understate it because Rikers Island is a nut house. You've never. I don't think people can even imagine what that place is, because it's not only do you have to worry about the inmates, the officers. I would say about 40% of the staff is corrupt, bringing in drugs, blades, liquor, cigarettes, pouches, all of that. On a daily basis. Watching other inmates. They have a thing at Rikers Island called the program. The program is, like you got this whole house full of guys. You got like the top guys and the team and stuff like that. And then like basically a new guy comes in and they'll ask you straight up, are you with it? When you say I'm with it, that means that I'm with giving you my commissary, giving you my phone calls. If you say, no, I'm not with it, the next thing you know, you're getting jumped by 7-8 guys. And before you know it, you're going to be in a puddle.
They're going to try to make you give that stuff up.
No, then you're going to beat you to a pulp and almost kill you. Mm-hmm. If they don't kill you, you're going to be very bad in a puddle of blood. So now the staff's going to know this guy can't live here because these guys already had a problem with him. So logically, they have to move him. So then the next place, this thing's happening. It's like you got to, only the strong survive. You have to fight in that place. Like Rikers Island, something like I've never seen, It was definitely stressful. It was definitely stressful, to say the least, because I was facing a murder charge as well as dealing with that element as well. So it was tough, but it definitely made me very strong-minded, and I learned a lot. And in that place, there's things that I learned in that place that I'm going to take with me forever. I remember this one psych, and it was just like simple advice. She basically said, you can't change the way things are, but you can change how you perceive them. I know that's like so simple, right? But she said it to me in like January of 2006. I was there barely a month. And when she said that, everything changed for me because she said that. And it's like, it's not what things are, but it's how you perceive them. All right, what it is I'm here, this and that. But if I can perceive this differently, like look at it like so many of my friends died because of their addictions, but I'm still here. And God, I'm looking at this now because of what she said, as this is God taking mercy on me. He saved me. He put me in this place, and this was his plan. And at first I was still getting high when I was there. And then I overdosed.
I read you had an OD.
Yes, I overdosed.
And you touched on a little bit about some of the correction officers, corruption. I mean, that's one of my questions really is how does something like that happen? I mean, how does a person manage to get enough drugs in prison to OD without the correctional officers or other officers that aren't participating and that know about it?
It's just an everyday occurrance. It's the COs who are bringing it in, so they're not worried. They're not looking to see who's high. I bought you in the stuff that you're getting high on. I don't care. This is what it is. I'm getting it for this much on the street, and then in this underground economy that you guys got going on, with what I paid this much, $60 for like a bundle, you can come sell a bag now for $50. So with one bag, you pretty much made your money back. So everything's marked up, and everyone makes money, and it just goes on and on and on. Yeah. And then obviously because I was a high-profile case, it was a big deal. It was in the newspaper. It was a big deal.
Right. Well, you've completely turned your life around and are now literally saving other lives. In what ways are you able? Well, I mean, I've looked at your Instagram feed and everybody, and I'm actually going to put this up here right now, so everybody can, just see your Instagram feed. You're changing lives. In what ways are you able to help addicts have a successful recovery like yourself?
Well, one thing I always say is no matter how bad things get, they always get better, or your ability to deal with them will get better. Because all of a sudden, like when things like, people just like close up and then they start getting really impulsive. And I used to do that all the time. But Rikers Island, when you're in a place like that and there's not much movement, and you get a phone call, or you make a phone call, and then my mom tells me, call your lawyer, and he really wants to talk to you. This was like, I think it was like Memorial Day of 2007, and And I'm like talking to my friends. They're like on the way to the Hamptons and stuff. And I'm like fighting for my life in this place.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom says, call your lawyer. He wants to talk to you. And then he tells me that they found a bloody glove with my blood on the windowsill. So now this is like a bad piece of evidence, because if I don't beat the burglary, it's going to be, it's not impossible, but it's going to be much harder to beat the felony murder because it's attached. Without you knock that out, there's no that. So I remember just, after getting off the phone with him, and I'm thinking I should be like away somewhere, going away for the weekend. I was absolutely crushed, because now I'm thinking I don't really have a fighting chance. They got blood, a bloody latex glove, my blood, it's confirmed, on the windowsill. But I'm thinking that's impossible, because when I was shot, it was down the street. There's no way a glove of mine with blood is going to be over there, unless they planted it there, like the OJ case, right?
Right.
But it turned out it wasn't even, yes, it was my glove. Yes, it was my glove. I mean, yes, it was my blood. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
It was the EMS. It was the people from the EMS. So there was a mistake.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, when I called my mom back, she was like, oh, call Joe back. He wants to talk to you. There was a mistake. He wants to talk to you. But just like I said, no matter how bad things get, they always get better, or your ability to deal with them will get better.
Mm-hmm.
In this situation, the situation got better, because now I found out it was EMS, not, okay, we're back to where we were. I still got a fighting chance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now it was like, or after a while of just like, it's like, grabbing a pizza out of the oven with no gloves. And the first time it's going to burn, right? Second time, maybe a little bit less. The third time, probably not as much. Probably the fourth time, probably not at all.
Yeah.
So now what I'm saying, like, maybe the first hour of dealing with something, it's hard. And then just the more you deal with it and internalize it the right way, then eventually it's still the same exact thing, but you're dealing with it a lot better. So just to be as hard as it is, and nothing is worth doing that. And I don't think it's not really what you tell people. It's not really what you tell people that gets them better. It's what you show them. That's why every once in a while I like to post a little picture with my shirt off. That's not to show off. That's recovery in the flesh. It's like I was a junkie smoking crack, but now, because of the way I live my life and the choices that I make, I'm able to look like this.
Right.
And if I did it, so can you. So now somebody will say, hey, man, you know what? That gives me hope. Maybe my skinny ass will get, whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, you dress nice, because now, you want to dress nice. You actually care about yourself. Your moral compass is back. You know what I mean? You're back to being a person. And when
you feel normal too. That frontal lobe cortex you were talking about, you start feeling normal after all that
right. And you
goes
feel
away.
normal. And this is what you show them. And they don't want what you say. They want what you are, what you're showing them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think it's very, it's the power of example. And that's why, that's why I have to continue staying on the right path, because if I don't, then I can't show them anything. What am I going to show them? But if I'm showing them, you know what I mean? Like, or even if I get another part or something, it doesn't even necessarily have to be shown through, movie and television, or something else great happens in my life where I open a treatment center or whatever it is. But these are all the fruits of my sobriety. These are the gifts that I have been given because of my better decision making and my sobriety. And that's powerful.
It is
that's powerful. And I think people see that, and I think they want that for themselves.
Absolutely.
Always, you know what I mean? It's very important to me.
Everybody wants a winning story, somebody, overcoming, that because everybody goes through some element of that in their life, no matter what. But also everyone on my podcast, they normally take a ride in what I call the Jacob Young time machine. They give their younger self some advice. I want to do it a little bit differently this time, because I know that if you could change your past, your choices would have been different. But living in regret means not being able to move forward. Have you been able to fully forgive yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I definitely take full responsibility for how my actions and my drug addiction made a contribution in the death of the heroic police officer. But as far as having any attachment to murder or anything like that, I never once thought that I had any attachment to that murder. How can I be attached to a murder that happened by a gun when I wasn't carrying one myself? If you eliminate the other guy from the equation and it was just me with what I had on my person, doing exactly what I was doing that night, but without the other part of the equation, which is Stephen Armento, guess what? Daniel Enchaltegui would still be alive. And I would probably be shot, right? Because he shot me first as I'm walking away. So why should I forgive myself for being a drug addict? The best I apologize, and the best apology is by changed behavior. And I'm sober over 15 years, so I think I've apologized.
Yeah, no, I mean,
You know
like,
what I mean?
I meant for like, I have to apologize to myself all the time for, my drug addiction too. And because it's still in my head sometimes. I go there and I go, fuck, I messed up, man. I really messed up. I missed those years of my life. I was, working on set, effed up. I knew I wasn't doing my due diligence. And sometimes I find it very hard to forgive myself for those moments in my life, not being fully present.
Yeah, okay, well, I mean, yeah, in that case, I have. Because, I worked really hard to be where I am today. You know what I mean? There were days where I didn't, I didn't want to get out of bed and do certain things that I pushed myself to do. Because when you're still in the depths of hell and in the grips of the addiction, but you have to change, it's very hard. Now it's not as hard because I know this is the way to do it. This is the way which yields the best life and the best quality of life. So now it's like a no-brainer. And that's why I hate when they try to tell people they have a disease. They got to stop teaching people that. I guarantee you if they didn't do that, there would be so many more people that recover. How can you recover if you're being told that you're sick forever? And I look at all these people that believe this. Oh, I'm an addict and I know I have a disease. You don't have a disease. You have an addictive personality, and it manifested in that. Maybe because you have some demons. Figure out what they are, and it'll manifest elsewhere. You are not. It's not a disease. It's just, I think that's so
If you had somebody
self-defeating.
reach out to you, and they said, "Look, I'm looking for help. I've heard your story, Lillo. Where can I go? Who can I reach out to find some help?"
I would tell them, you message me whenever you want. Message me whenever you want. I'm always around. Try me middle of the night, whatever. But my advice to them would be to get treatment. This is when I know someone's not ready. Well, yeah, like I was going to just start going to meetings and stuff like that. That's not enough. Meetings is like maybe if that's for you. That meetings are not for me. For many people, they are. For many people, it saved their lives. So more power to them. Different things work for different people. But meetings is like the last thing. The first thing, if you're like on pills or something that requires, or that is, detox, which is a physical addiction, the first thing I would recommend is you need to go to detox. You need to go get properly medicated in a facility that is for what you need right now, not you do it on the street with Valium to go to sleep to detox off that, because then you're going to wake up another beast. You don't know. Obviously, we don't know how to do this, because if we did, we wouldn't be in the situation. That's what I'd say. If you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't be reaching out to me. So, you know what I mean? So the first thing is you need to get the detox. And then after that, you need to go to treatment. Once they hear that word, a lot of people get scared. But I'm like, what are you scared of? You should be more scared of the way you're living your life right now. That's much more scary. This is your saving grace. Why are you scared to go to your saving grace? A place you got insurance. This is what you got it for. Go use it. Mm-hmm. You need to help yourself. You're investing in yourself. Go invest a month or two to get the rest of your life back. I think it's pretty worth it, right? Yeah. Oh, but then, but my job and blah, blah, blah. But listen, there are laws in place. like the FMLA, there are laws in place for this type of thing. You know what I mean? You have an addiction. You're not a bad person. You got to figure out why. I don't even like when I like to call it a spiritual disorder. Spiritually, there's something wrong, which is causing us to reach out for the drink, the drug, the shopping, whatever it is. So you got to find what's wrong with the spirit. I think it's more something like, along those lines, where like a disease. Like I think
there's some darker, deeper pain that's in there.
Yeah, it's like when I hear disease, I think of like pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Go ask somebody who's got that if they would trade you for your disease and see how fast they'll. You know what I mean? Sure. I'm not trying to like.
No, I think it's very valid what you're saying. I've actually never heard it spoken to me in that way, and I think you're really it's very true and without a doubt. I always thought it was weird that they would refer to it as a disease when like you said, there's people out there that are dying of cancer, pancreatic cancer, or many other diseases.
There's no coming back from pancreatic cancer, man.
No,
there's no coming back. With addiction, there is coming back. But the way they frame it and the way they talk about it as being a disease, basically what they're saying is there is no coming back. They want to help you come back, but they're telling you there is no coming back. That you're stuck. You're this person forever. So you got to come. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Why do why do you keep feeding that? You're going to these places and you're hearing. I know the best way to keep it is to give it away, but it doesn't mean that you have to go to meetings. Why do you need to keep filling your brain with this kind of stuff? It's like a woman that was raped and had a horrible experience, just like we have a horrible experience because of our addiction, that wants to go to like meetings and talk about this stuff 30 years later. It doesn't make sense. I don't want to relive this. I don't want to because you keep speaking it into existence. And it's like out of sight, out of mind. Just, you know what I mean? You can still help people. And I think, but when you're there and you're hearing all that stuff, it can make you lose the focus that you need to stay on the right path because you're hearing conflicting things. I just don't think it's healthy. Yeah. What is healthy, though, is if you want to mentor someone, because now that gives you and provides you with that extra layer of strength. So now it's like you got to be sober for two people. You fall, they fall. So now it's like the stakes are a little bit higher. Now there's that accountability. That's why this concept is so important in recovery. You got to be accountable to someone or something. That's the first step. And then from there, you can just build on your recovery. You start doing good things. You feed the good dragon. The good dragon gets bigger. You feed the bad dragon, that gets bigger. And I think when you go to these meetings and you talk about this stuff, you never really let the bad dragon go to sleep. Mm-hmm. You may not be feeding him, but you're keeping him awake. You're saying shit that he's interested in, and he stays awake.
And you hear stories about other people's experiences that keep
him. And you're still susceptible,
right?
Because you never really let that beast, like you never let him lay dormant. You know what I mean? And I think that beast, you can kill that beast. I have no doubt I'll never get high again. I get high off working out. I don't need to. Like I told you, it was the crack. I'm not on parole anymore. I could have easily done
your
it.
Your energy is contagious already, man. You don't need anything to keep it going. My sponsor, Boys Town, their motto is "He ain't heavy, he's my brother." Now, they've been around for over 100 years. Father Flanagan established Boys Town in Omaha, Nebraska years and years ago. And when they were just still trying to come up and trying to take care of as many kids that they could, and they didn't have medical equipment, there was one child that was not able to walk, and boys would take turns carrying him to football games and to class. And one day, Father said to him, he goes, "Isn't he heavy?" And he said, "He's not heavy, Father. He's my brother." Meaning in our lives, someone has carried us. Wow. Lillo, who's carried you?
Well, definitely God. I can't really answer that yet. I don't know. Maybe my Father from heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, look. There he is right there.
This is Senior.
Yeah. And that's me. That was the day. See that?
Yeah. Beautiful.
So he's always around. And, and there was a story where an ex-girlfriend of mine messaged me June 25th, 2018. And she said, you know, and because she follows me on Instagram, she says, I know you'd always do good. You were always smart and this and that. She said, I had a lot of dreams about you and your family over the years, and either one of your parents were always in them. She said, I had one last night, and it was with your dad. And your dad said, if we find the cat, we can save Lillo. So then I messaged her back, and it's crazy because the night she had that dream was the night my father died. And I still have the DM, June 24th. So I'm like, wow, that's crazy. You know, like, wow. A couple of weeks later, I was in my room. It was July, you know, middle of July. But it wasn't that hot out that day. It was like nice. So we didn't need the AC. I had the window open. And I hear my nephew screaming from outside, but like calling me. Italians call me nephew, uncle is Zio. Z-I-O. Spanish, it's Tio with a T. So I hear, Tio! Tio, like, you know, like, come on, like, not in desperate, he wasn't hurt. It was like, Tio, come here. Like, I go outside. It was our cat that we lost. He was gone for 2 years. His name was Whiskey. And my nephew remembers him when he was little. He was like, look, Whiskey. And I see this cat, he's like trembling, and he's right there. And I couldn't believe my eyes. And I'm looking at this cat. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, he looks so skinny and hungry. So my first instinct was to go inside because we had another cat, grab him a can of food. I wanted to feed him. Mm-hmm. So when I go back inside, come back outside, the cat's interested. This cat was walking away from us. And then I remember right before he rounded the corner, we were all on the steps watching him, rounding the corner before, and he wasn't walking like a cat. It had more like of a human gait. The way the cat was, like the gait was like as of a human. Right before the cat rounded the corner where we weren't going to see him anymore, the cat, he looked around, he looked straight, and he was gone. Never seen him again. And that's a true story. Wow. So maybe my dad is carrying me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he, you know, like that right there tells me. And you know what? My father was such a tough guy, man, in his day. He worked construction. You know how many people I meet? Oh, you're Lillo's son? Oh, my God. I never seen anybody work like your father, man. Oh, your father was an animal. That's all I hear. He was like, would take on the world. He would take on jobs in Manhattan, like jobs that are too big for him, but he would still take them on. You ask my uncles, well, they will tell you my father was a beast in his day. And then just to see from like when he had the heart transplant, and I got to think, you know, like, I'd like to think, you know, maybe I'm responsible for that, you know. I'm Lillo Jr. He adopted me, gave me everything. Mm-hmm. And then I come here and I was in movies and I did really well. But then, you know, I became an addict and someone lost their life as a result of it. It was really tough on my dad, you know. Sure. And, you know, that definitely hurt his heart. You know, it definitely broke his heart, literally, to the point where he needed another one. And then they gave him a transplant in 07. And then, you know, you start taking because, you know, that's a foreign object that we're putting in your body. So now your body's instinct is to attack it.
Reject it.
Yeah, and attack it.
Yeah.
So now you got to start taking 90 different medications, anti-rejection medication. And, you know, as a result of all this, your immune system is not, you know what I mean? Your immune system is
broken down. Your memory's no good.
Yeah.
All those medications have some sort of, you know,
side effects like that. You're almost better off with the bad heart.
Right.
So then he never had diabetes. There was never a history of it in his family. But once he was taking all his anti-rejection medication, it caused the onset of diabetes. And then that caused the onset of neuropathy. I remember my father picking up cinder blocks, wanted to put him on the scaffold when we used to bring the report cards. My mom used to take us on the job. But my father was a tough guy, like a real tough guy. And then to see that, it broke my heart. And for him to be that kind of man and to see how weak I got because of my addiction, knowing that he was so strong. You know what I mean? And it made him feel like a failure. Like, why did this kid turn out? But it definitely wasn't his fault. If anything, he was the only reason why I had any good in me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So now it's like to this, you know, now I know all of that. And I know that I definitely stressed my dad out. You know what I mean? So just that mere fact, I live for him every day because I know there's someplace else. There's no way we go from living all these years and making such an impact in so many people's lives, and then it's just over. I don't believe that. I believe now it's like you go somewhere else. And I believe that, the deceased are watching us. The ones that loved us are watching us. And now that's what I do. When I make a decision, I think about, would my father make this decision? Would he be pleased that I'm making a decision? Why or why not? Because my father was a good man. He worked. I mean, there were days, man, it was so cold out. Me and my brother would hear him getting up for work. Like, how many we hear his espresso machine? Yeah. Well, it's like the Bronx Tale.
Pretend to be asleep a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's just like the Bronx Tale. When De Niro said, it don't take much strength to pull the trigger, but try waking up day after day. And I seen that with my own eyes. I seen my father come home with his hands bleeding from working so hard, walking in like this. Literally breaking his back. You know what I mean? That's the kind of father I had. So that's who's carrying me, my father. And if I can become half the man he was, I'll be happy. So
I'm sure he feels that way about you.
So
Lillo, tell us a little bit about what's happening right now. You said you had a short film that's coming out, or it's going to be screened in Toronto.
Yeah, we're making our world premieres at the Toronto Film Festival. It's called
great.
I'm on Fire.
What is it again?
I'm on Fire. Jamie Lynn Sigler, and we even used the Bruce Springsteen song in the film. Bruce Springsteen was abused as a kid, and the film's about that. So he gave us the song, and it's a really nice story. I was blown away when I saw the final product, because you could have all this footage and remember shooting whatever you shot, but the editing is what makes or breaks it.
Yeah, you
can have something that was great when you shot it, and then it's a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Or you can have something that you don't. You know what I mean? You're like, oh yeah, I think I was happy with what we did. But then with what I was happy with what we did turns into like a masterpiece. That's what I think I'm on Fire is. It's literally a masterpiece. It's edited. Because now, like, I've edited films and I've been there the whole process, looking at a hard drive, looking at all this footage and finding one little look, one little turn, one little hand jet. You know what I mean? But you got to and it's like, it's hard work to find all and capture these little nuances, the characters' nuances by little things. You could say, oh, yeah, I didn't even see that, man. Maybe we could add this to the character just by this. You know what I mean? You could change a character by the way it's edited.
Absolutely, 100%.
Like the character, you may have had this intention for this character as being this, but then it's turned into this. So, yeah, that film is awesome. It's going to be at the Toronto Film Festival. Going to be huge. I did a film called Sleepyhead here in Yonkers. It takes place in hell. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. That's going to be out later on this year. I got a film on Amazon Prime right now called Made in Mexico, where I play like a cartel guy. It's actually like it's a comedy more than anything. Made in Mexico, Amazon Prime. You'll like it.
Amazon Prime, Made in Mexico. I'm going to put that on my list.
Yeah, check that out. Anyone that saw it, I haven't seen anything negative. People like it. It's funny. It's like over the top funny. You'll like it. And then myself and then the main character, it's kind of like a relationship that Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal had. And Analyze This. Like they love each other, but he's still scared of them, and but it's funny. It's like, I don't know if it's as funny as that film, because that was awesome, but I like to think it was pretty good. Well, anybody that spoke about it said nothing but really good things. So and I'd also like to thank everyone over at More Life Recovery. This is where I work. It's in IOP, intensive outpatient, in Metuchen, New Jersey, and I know for a fact, because I know everyone at that place is there because they really do care. I've seen, places where it may have not been the same thing, but that place, everyone was in the trenches, was in the depths of hell as a result of their addiction. I know they really care. And I just, I've been there for, over 2 years now. And I want to thank them. I want to thank, of course, my family, my friends, and everyone who's, stuck by me and helped me get to where I am today. Because recovery is like walking up a ladder. A lot of times we fall, like the recovery ladder, you fall, right? But when you have the support, and as you're walking up the ladder, there are others that support you that are walking up the ladder with you, right? When you fall, you may be on the 8th step, you may only fall to the 6th step because you had that support. So it's much easier to keep going. But when you're on the 8th step, you don't have the support and you fall to the bottom. It's like, shit, I got to do all this again? Fuck that, I ain't doing it. Yeah. And I tell people the difference between me and somebody who didn't recover as successfully is maybe they didn't have the support that I had. It's not that I'm a better or more amazing human being than they are, or you know what I mean? It's just that maybe I had the support. And, and recovery, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And it's a gift, Yeah. And when you get your recovery and you get your sobriety again, it's like somebody gives you a big, long rope, right? You could do, usually people think you can only do one thing with the rope, hang yourself, right? But you know what else you could do with the rope? Not only hang yourself, but you can use the rope the smart way. Instead of using it to hang yourself, you can use it to pull yourself up.
Yeah.
It goes this way or that way. I like to use the rope. I used to like to use the rope to pull myself up, But I'm like very serious about this, because I know what it was. I know like as good as my life was and how in control I am. Like I work out and my diet and all that. And I got disciplined in so many areas. And if you told me I could never have steak or orange juice again, my doctor told me my sugar went up a little bit. I had sugar like 3 times in the last 2.5 months. Okay, no problem. I got back down and I'm lean again, and it's all there.
Yeah.
But when it comes, but the point I'm trying to make is when it comes to that other stuff, discipline, all these things, they go out the window. It's something that becomes part of us that doesn't want to let go of us. So I know I can empathize with addicts and what they're going through. And that's why I'm really serious about this. I don't try to talk a good game. I'm really about
You're living it. You're living it.
Like a lot of times I may come across as being harsh to like someone because you can't baby people. I don't believe like tough love is where it's at. You got to tell them, man, hey, this is what's going on. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, people break down and cry because they need to hear that shit. You need to break them down before you can build them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to, but like my Instagram, you shared it with them, right? So they know what it is.
Yes,
like,
sir.
All right. No, I'm just saying, like, please, if you feel that you have a problem or you feel like talking to someone may help you get over that problem or make it easier for you to deal with, I'm your guy. Like, seriously, you message me. I'm really about that.
Yeah, it's at Lillo _Brancato. And make sure you guys take that, to the bank because that's amazing. That's a generous offer. Lillo, man, thank you so much. You're an inspiration. Thank you for being so candid. I want to thank you for being a part of this special episode. And I want everyone to know that you've always taken responsibility for your actions. You paid 8 years of your life in prison. You've been on such a journey, fame for movies, TV. It gives us a platform to be heard. And you are using your voice to help so many people suffering with addiction. I know you're making a positive difference in the world today. You've always been a gifted actor, and I look forward to seeing you on the screen in whatever you choose to do next. I want to thank you honestly for that today, and I also want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Jacob. My friend, tomorrow, we'll get the Mets. I'm a diehard Mets fan. Mets Dodgers. Dodgers right now ranked #1 in the league. Mets are like 2 or 3. So this is like going to be big. It's going to tell me a lot. Last time we split 2-2, but the reason why I mentioned it is because your name is Jacob. Tomorrow, you know the best pitcher in baseball is, right?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Jacob deGrom.
Yeah.
He's a beast.
Yeah, I know.
He's pitching tomorrow night. I would like to see him pitch tonight on my birthday, but Tawan Walker tonight. So we'll see. Hopefully, we'll make easy work of the Dodgers.
Yeah, hope so.
Yeah, the Dodgers are tough, though. The Dodgers are tough.
Yeah, always a tough franchise.
The Yankees can't play small ball. They live and die by the home run. If they can't do that, they don't win. But you have to be impressed at the fact that they don't have much pitching and they only win by games by that, and they're still in first place. So the thing is, down the line in the playoffs, it's hard to win without a solid rotation because that's what it all comes down to when you're playing that same team. It could be possibly 7 games. You need the rotation. That's what takes you over the edge. But thank you again, brother. I appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. And that's about all the time that we have for this week. Real Conversations is sponsored by Boys Town. And at Boys Town, they have a national hotline. It's called Your Life, Your Voice. Please call the hotline if you're in crisis or you need someone to just simply talk to. It's a toll number. It's 1-800-448-3000. Again, the number is 1-800-448-3000. 448-3000. Your life, your voice is a 24/7 crisis resource referral number for kids and their parents. They're always there to help. They're just one call away. Don't feel like talking? Text VOICE to 20121. Someone will get back to you immediately. Thanks for joining me on Real Conversations. I'm Jacob Young. Till next time, love yourself and love each other.